I wonder what we're going to talk about.
Well, you know what's fascinating about people who make fun in the entertainment business? You know, whatever we consider fun. It's all adults, and as I've gotten older, I've understood that the arbiters of fun in our lives, and even, children's lives, all that is made by adults. And my point is, with bringing that up, I have to imagine that the people at Nintendo have to have unrelenting imagination and just know how to have fun. Like, those are the kind of people I probably want to hang out with a little bit just to see what fun looks like, because Mario Wonder is just absolutely delightful and it's fun, and I can't get enough of this game. And as far as I understand, all three of us have played this, which is actually kind of a rare occurrence on this podcast where everybody who is participating has played the game. I think it's just fascinating. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yes.
Yes.
Just full stop.
Yeah, I think so. And I've got your YouTube clickbait, hook here. The truth about Super Mario Bros. Wonder. And the truth is, it's pretty good.
Pretty good? All right. It's not bad.
That's on the thumbnail.
Pretty good. I just need to figure out whose face goes on the front. Is it Bowser or is it Mario with a frown? It's pretty good.
Yeah, I like the sad Mario where he's on the stairs and he's just kind of like this.
Yeah. Maybe we'll do that. But yeah, I don't know. Like, in my opinion, Mario Wonder is this weird mix of Mario World and Kirby's Dream Land 2, both of those being in my top 10 games of all time. The Kirby's Dream Land 2 thing comes from the Wonder Flowers. In Kirby's Dream Land 2, there's these collectibles you have to collect. They're called Rainbow Drops. But every world has this Rainbow Drop that if you collect them all, you get a secret ending and all this other stuff if you're not aware with how Dreamland 2 works. And then Mario Wonder, that is the Rainbow Drop, but it's in every single level. And so there's always this carrot you're chasing because you're always looking for the flower. They're not always hard to find, but that idea of I'm always looking for something. It's not just platforming through the level. It's not just finding the little secrets that Mario tends to have. It is now there is something that grants a reward right there immediately in the level, which is not something Mario has traditionally done in the past as far as 2D Mario goes. We've gotten to the point where Mario does collectibles in 3D Mario, but those collectibles are simply the goal. The Wonder Flowers is a part of the experience immediately, and I love that.
Yeah, it's always something to look forward to, right? You're always going, well, and so it's interesting because, Mario, I think, maybe you'd agree, maybe you wouldn't. I mean, the whole appeal of him, especially for like the mainline ones, is that there's all these ideas, all these creative things happening, Mario Odyssey, Mario 64, all that stuff. All these creative ideas are constantly coming at you. So it's like, what's the next surprising thing they're going to do? And so, the big thing with Mario Wonder is it has these Wonder Flowers, right? But it's kind of reframing the surprises like, this isn't just Mario. We have this big surprise for you every single level, something to look forward to. It's like a little mystery box. And you're like, because, when we do a Mario level, there's the level, right? Like, it's going to be about this one enemy. Right. He's going to do different things. And so you're guessing, though. You go into these levels being like, how's it going to twist it at the end? Because you know a twist is coming. And I think the smart thing about that, though, is Mario games are kind of, and they've openly talked about this, they're kind of designed that way already in a sense where they're going to introduce an idea, then they're going to escalate it, make it a little more difficult, and then they're going to have some kind of twist on it that makes it interesting at the end. And they have like some kind of like, I think they like compared to like origami folding or something like that. Something where they have this philosophy of how they make their Mario games. But Wonder differs from that, and like it makes it obvious, but in somehow even though you're always expecting the surprise, it's still surprising and still fun. And
you don't expect that when you touch the wonder flower that the piranha plants are going to start singing.
Right.
That's not something
That was delightful, by the way.
That was so good. I was like, this is the second level. They're already dropping banger moments already. But I mean, yes, Mario has always been Mario Wonder. They literally just throw it in your face and like, this is the game. Like, wonder being, I'm wondering what's going to happen. Every question mark block is I wonder what's going to pop out of this. Every moment you fly into the sky, whether it's Mario 3 or Mario, I wonder what is up here. And so they literally were just like, we're going to just drop this in the name and you're going to wonder what everything is. Not just the question mark blocks, not just what's on the sky, not what's down below, but what's going to happen with these flowers every single time you touch them. The
it
one
makes me laugh. But what if Mario took drugs? That's kind of what I feel like when I play. So like, it's just so over the top.
It is.
Well,
we know what these wonder flowers really are.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, you know what those mushrooms really are, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So
pretty sure they were taking drugs as they made this game.
Well, I mean, there's two sides to it, right? And I mean, obviously, I'm a super nerd, so I know everything about how they design these games. I read all the interviews and stuff, right? And so when I'm playing this game, there's that sense of wonder, and there's also like the other side of it, where, I mean, scientists made this game. They have like objectively calculable ways to figure out what's most fun, like that. When Nintendo started as a toy company, and they have like the initial development studios that they used to make their games, they used to refer to them as Research and Development Studio 1, Research and Development Studio 2. Like, they have like scientifically calculable ways to determine what's fun. Their level design thing I described a little bit earlier. I mean, I'm sure they've got so much testing and data to be like, yep, this is how we make our game to be the most fun thing ever. And so it's like an interesting combination of, we're trying to like open the door to as much imagination and wonder and all this stuff. And you can also kind of feel like the science, cold, hard Nintendo logic version of it, like encroaching upon it, but it doesn't destroy the game or anything. It's just like, it's a weird mixture. And I can't help but notice it every time I play. Like, every time you see the coins lead you in exactly the right way, it's like, oh yeah, robots made this.
Nintendo seems akin to Disney in that way. Maybe not necessarily today's Disney, but like, I always heard, as someone who's done customer service stuff, I've researched some of the different Disney isms and stuff, and even the trash cans are researched as to how far apart they are supposed to be, because they have researched how long someone will walk with trash in their hands. And they have placed those to make sure, A, their custodians don't have to clean up all the time, but B, anybody ever notice that Disney is literally like the cleanest place? And you've got so many kids. It's just, it should be a wreck all the time. I worked in a GameStop. It should be a wreck all the time. But it is so wonderfully put together to keep it that way. And that's kind of how Nintendo feels with what you're saying with this studio research and development and all this. They're literally looking, okay, how far apart can we put the fun to keep people having fun?
But the interesting thing about that is that wasn't the case with the new Super Mario series. That was an inconsistent up and down. It had its fun moments, but it wasn't consistent to the level of fun that previous Marios typically are, right? The new Super Mario Brothers on the DS, that was good. New Super Mario Brothers, it was okay. And it was kind of up and down until New Super Mario U, where it was like, okay, like the great level design, all that stuff. Luigi U took it to another level just to make it a little bit more difficult. So whatever they did here, it was, we're going to look at, okay, what do really people like about Mario? And instead of let's try to make Mario remain current, which is how I felt the new Super Mario series worked, let's just try to keep it current. Let's try to keep it in front of people. This is like, no, this is what y'all love about Mario. This is everything you love about Mario. And for the most part, I mean, it just straight nails everything. This is where you go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to go to bat a little bit, just a little bit for New Super Mario Bros. You're correct, because I think the idea was basically to recapture what Mario 1 was for people, like, you know, in 2010.
Yeah, New Super Mario Brothers. Yeah, I think that is right. I think they openly said that.
Yeah, and so the idea is like this is some baby's first Mario game, and so we're going to stick to that. And you know, if that's your first Mario game, I think you're going to find it's a great, surprising, fun game, just the way, you know, the previous Mario games were. But it's one of those things, and I think the way they tackle things in Wonder is informed by this, is that the more Mario you play, the less exciting New Super Mario Bros. Is. Because you get used to all this stuff, right? I mean, the Goombas are weird, but they're not weird if you play every game for like 20 years, right?
Yeah, but the new Super Mario series does something unlike any other Mario game before it, where they literally use the same stuff over and over and over and over again. Super Mario Brothers was unique compared to Mario Brothers 2, which, yes, it was a switch up of Doki Doki Panic, but then which is different from Super Mario 3, which is different from Super Mario World. And so you see how they build upon each other, but they're never quite the same. New Super Mario Brothers 2 goes for like the whole let's collect a 3 billion coins, but then
you don't
the
like
next
that?
one after that kind of goes back to traditional, New Super Mario, whatever New Super Mario Brothers was. And so I think that was the Wii. So, but it's like the same music, same castle music, you know, like,
well, so
there's
Mario 1, there's Mario 2, and then there's 2 Mario 2s, right?
Right. The one in Japan.
The original
yes.
Mario 2 is basically a reskin of the first one with different levels. And I think they took that same philosophy. Though. Yes. And I think they took a very similar philosophy for why they did New Super Mario the way they did. You're like, oh,
but they kept going longer than that. Mario 3 was completely different than Mario Lost Levels for us. And Mario World different than Mario 3. That's really my point. They extended that to 4 or 5 games in the same series, where it's like, okay, I've heard this music. I've seen these kind of things. We're okay. Can we? It's the same desert level, like the same kind of aesthetics and things like that.
Did you cringe when you saw the desert in Wonder?
No, I didn't cringe.
Okay. Because I feel like that's like, because everyone gives Sonic crap for like the Green Hill and using that all the time. I feel like Nintendo really loves deserts, and they put in like every single game.
Also like water levels, and I wish they didn't put those in every single game.
It's because Miyamoto really loves Arizona.
Maybe.
As and obviously the desert in Wonder is great. Like it's like an actual good world, but just like the idea, like you're doing all this crazy creative stuff, but you guys just can't get rid of the desert. You guys just love the desert too much.
Yeah. I think probably the desert just allows for a lot of interesting things to happen that they're inspired by. I have no idea. I like what they do on the map with that, where stuff you're just running around the map and boom, there's a level. Okay, let's do it. So I like that, but I think the only thing I don't like about Mario Wonder is I do feel like the Wonder Flowers are a little too easy to find. I like the approach that they've taken. Again, I compare it to Kirby's Dream Land 2, because what they do with the Wonder Flowers as far as 2D Mario is concerned, they haven't really done in a 2D Mario before. The closest thing I've seen with that is Kirby's Dream Land 2. But in Kirby's Dream Land 2, the Rainbow Drops aren't necessarily hard to collect, but sometimes they make you think about how to actually get them. Maybe you need the right power-up, so you have to double back and start the level over and try to keep that power up. So when you get to the spot, you can use it, and they try to throw things at you to make you lose the power up and stuff like that. That doesn't really happen in Mario Wonder, where you specifically have to equip a badge, or you have to use, a certain enemy to necessarily. It happens sort of, but super infrequently. It's not often enough. And so it kind of takes away I wouldn't say it takes away the effect, but it doesn't make it as delightful, because I know if I can generally just play through the level, I will come across it, and I would like it to be more of a, I wonder where it is. Oh my gosh, I can't find, what thing do I have to do? What kind of platforming mechanic do I have to achieve to get the thing? And they got little moments where it's not necessarily with the Wonder Flower, but some other secret that you'll find. But I do wish it was more specific to the Wonder Flowers.
Yeah, well, I feel like a lot of the magic of like the first Mario is, or the original Nintendo ones, is just like you could literally jump anywhere and there might be a secret there, right? There could be secrets everywhere, and there are no like necessary limitations to it. And I think you're right. Like the secrets in Wonder are generally pretty tame. Like I feel like the first world's secrets are the most clever ones in the entire game. Otherwise, it's all kind of like in your face, pretty easy to find if you've played platformers before, right? Like you kind of know the tricks.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I agree. The Wonder in Mario Wonder is very in your face. You can't really escape it. You can't even like miss it by accident.
Yeah, most of the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the direction with that comes from collect the flower and then see what happens.
Yeah.
Like that. I think that's the effect they're going for. And then some of the weird stuff, that the secretive stuff, like once you collect the Wonder Flower, like there are some secrets within that kind of weird stuff happening. So I do want to give them credit. Like it's not like just the Wonder Flower and that just depletes the whole experience. But I just wish that were more the case. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I mean, it kind of goes into what I was talking about earlier about them being the fun scientist, right? Like they're designing these games so that everyone can get the most amount of fun at this point, right? They're not, and I think really a big concern with like every game developer now is like they're very worried about people missing things. Like they can't do secrets the way they used to do when it was just like three guys in a room putting stuff into a game that they find is fun, right? This is all very rigorously tested and developed so that one thing that really bugs me about this game, how like when I was talking about the mystery blocks that are like invisible and stuff, you can like actually see them if you're certain characters. And so basically, if you were like if you were really insane, you can map out every single secret block in the game. And I just don't know if you should like be able to do that without, I don't know. I feel like that's like going a little too far and like giving you all the secrets, right? I mean, it's like some stuff should just not be easily laid out, no matter how tedious it is. And if you do that, it kind of gets rid of the magic a little bit.
Yeah, I think they expect most people to just kind of stick with one or two characters and go from there. So there are I forget what they're specifically called, but they're these
baby Luigi.
Yeah, Luigi's the best character.
Luigi.
I wholeheartedly disagree, but I understand where you come from.
Well, who's your pick? Who's your pick?
Oh, of course, the main man himself, Mario.
Oh, okay.
Of course. But I mean, if it's not Mario, I'll pick Daisy.
That's fine.
It's acceptable to you. I'm glad I have your approval for Daisy.
Yep. No problem.
But with I forgot what I was gonna say. That's all right. We were talking about the oh yes, because selected characters. Yeah, I think most people would only use one character most of the time. So I think what's interesting, you have those self-contained levels where you kind of have to I don't even know. I don't remember what they were called off the top of my head. I should be playing
Those
gameplay, by the way.
those break time ones, or those puzzle ones, you mean, right?
Yeah, those very specific puzzle ones.
Yeah.
Where you could kind of choose different characters, and some stuff might pop up, some stuff may not. But if you're using one character, I mean, those were kind of challenging. I was like, yo, challenge. Like, I do not know what to do with this.
Yep.
So, I thought those were good. But even I did try one where I just switched the character just to see what would happen. And I really didn't find anything specific for that character. So I think some of them, they're just, you just got to figure it out regardless. So I don't know how pertinent that problem is. Now that I'm looking at this gameplay, which is mine, by the way, and
just to clarify, it's not like it's a big problem. I just feel like it's the principle of the thing, right? Where's the fun and wonder and like telling everyone where the secrets are?
Yeah, I agree, but I do feel like in this age of the internet, you probably could hide the wonder flowers a lot more because people could just look up where they're at. Yes. So you don't really have to look back at, what happened in Mario World and Mario 3 and how difficult some things were to find and go, yeah, we got to make it. We want everybody to find the wonder flower. It's like, well, if they're having that much trouble, number one, you're great at just putting out secrets where, just if you die too many times, here's the infinite life thing so you can get through or people are just going to look it up on the internet. So might as well just make it as hard as you want. I mean, there's that one level was incredibly difficult where you had to jump and wall jump all through all the platforms all in time with the music and stuff. That was a tough level.
Yeah.
You got to deal with it. If you go put them in there, might as well just go, not all the way. But put them in there. Hide them flowers a little better. Yeah. What do you think about the badges?
I like them, but I wish there was more like actual like levels dedicated to them. Like, they have those badge challenges, but a lot of them feel like tutorials.
Agreed.
And if you use them on the normal levels, there's a couple, like if you do the badge challenge where you unlock the badge and then do a level like right next to it, it's kind of built for that badge a lot of the time. But otherwise, there's really not, it feels like you're just picking how you want to cheat. So it's kind of, so I mean, I like it. I like it, but I wish they went a little further with it. And I guess I won't go too into it, but like if you go to the final challenges of the game, there's a little bit of that, and it kind of is like, wow, I wish there was more of this stuff.
The moment I want to talk about this moment on screen right here where I had hit the little snail thing and the shell went out, and I realized, oh frick, I needed that shell so I could get through the bigger blocks. Those moments like that, I like those because now it kind of adds a moment where I have to replay the level. And
here's my big nitpick for this, right? So if this was an old Nintendo game, you would go like 2 steps off screen, it would just respawn.
It would.
And in this game, you can kind of do that, but you got to go like really far back, and it's like, why are you guys messing with me like this?
But even with that, like even if they didn't respawn at all, that's the kind of things I appreciate with what this game does in some ways. And I wish it did it more because it does, to me, that adds the sort of wonder and surprise.
It gives it a little teeth. Yeah.
Yeah. But I agree about the badges. I just wanted more reason to use them for specific cases. And it was kind of, honestly, I only needed 2. Really, like there's not really too many badges I did absolutely 100% need. There were moments where I was going through a level and thought, okay, this would be easier with a specific badge, particularly the water levels with the dolphin.
Yeah.
But for the most part, the default badge you get with the whole hat thing, parachute, it's a strong badge from jump. David, how'd you feel about the badges?
Badges. I only got to the first one, which, like you said, is that I. It is one of those things where I do like it for the sheer sake that it's not something I remember from 2D Mario games. Like it, I don't know if a Mario game has actually ever done that before with like having like these special little abilities like this
The
to add in
closest thing
almost
is
in an
probably like,
RPG way.
yeah, not like that. The closest thing is like if you pick different characters, like Luigi would have the flutter jump thing, or like
Yeah.
Princess Peach would like float or something like that. And that's kind of what
Yes.
these badges give you, but it
Just
puts
for
in your hands.
everybody.
Yeah, it puts in your hands for which one you actively want to pick.
Yeah. So that I think it's a lot of fun. Even though, like you said, it is kind of borrowing that idea, so to speak, from just instead of making everybody choose different characters for certain things, that they're more or less just pushing you to, hey, this is for any character you want to use.
The elephant power up. How we feeling about that one?
I got big problems with the elephant.
Do you really, or
Gotta
are
have
you
problems
messing
with.
with us?
Well, you can decide.
That looked like a Kirby level right there.
Yeah.
Just going straight up. Yeah.
Yep.
Kirby levels like to go straight up.
Anyway, my big problem is
I
normally
mean,
when
it's an elephant,
Mario,
so it'll always be a big problem.
absolutely, it's
The elephant in the
room. But so when Mario gets a power up in a Mario game, he's supposed to put on a suit, right? He's supposed to like actually dress up like in a suit. And I think they took that from Mario 3 because it's like a stage play that he's putting on these different suits. He's dressing up like these animals. He's just an elephant. He's not putting on a suit anymore. He's just an elephant. It's not right. I think they messed up.
Well, I mean, the fire flower doesn't technically, like, he turns a different color.
Yeah, if he puts on a different Firefly suit, it's fine. It works in canon.
Well, look at his face. Like, what do you think that is? Like, elephantitis?
So here's what actually happens, Jack. We all know that this, again, is Mario on drugs. He's actually in an elephant suit. You're just seeing how he perceives the whole thing.
Well, I'll accept that. That's fine then.
See, fixed.
Yeah, that works with the lore.
One of the things I want to figure out, if you hold water in the trunk at the end of a level, he'll spray the whatever the toad-ish thing.
Yeah, the flower guys.
Yeah, the flower guys, and they'll bloom. I wonder if there is a secret where in any level that there is water, if you hold the trunk and hold water in the trunk to the end of the level and spray all the flower guys, something will happen. I'm curious. See?
Yeah.
You see how they got me wondering? This is the kind of stuff, because it was like, oh, that's a thing.
And that's why it's called Mario Wonder.
Yeah, so
he was wondering.
Somebody's probably already done this because people love to blast through these things. But I am curious. I need to know this as soon as possible, because I thought that was a little fascinating touch. Or is it just a little playful thing? If it's just a playful thing, that's kind of a disappointment, because I feel like they could have done something with that. But that's not something that's gonna lower my score or say it's a bad game.
Maybe a point or two.
Nah, not even a point. Not even. This is a fantastic freaking game. Yeah, it's just so freaking good. The Mario 3.
I'm happy there's no timer.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I'm not upset at all that there's no timer.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously in later Mario games, especially the new Super Mario series, I mean, the timer is so long, they might as well not have one.
Yeah.
So in
It's
some
just
cases,
there's that lack of tension, though, that I'm going to miss something.
because they want you to explore. So I respect that. But there is a feeling within the gameplay where I kind of do wish there was some of that tension. And I guess that is coming from the fact that it's not hard to find some of these things. So if it's not hard to find it, I wish there was some kind of pressure just to make it where you have to make a decision. Like, do I go for the Wonder Flower or do I not? Because I'm running out of time. Will I have enough time if I activate the Wonder Flower? Something like that. And again, I think that just comes from the fact that the Wonder Flowers are just too easy to find. So I'm looking for something that would add a little bit more tension with that.
Yeah, well, and a timer can be a great tool if you like make levels specifically for it, like the Luigi U. I mean, I think it's a great use of
Yeah.
the timer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Mario Wonder. Well, it's interesting, right? Because it has normally when you play one of these modern Nintendo games, they have like the main game, which is like brain dead easy, and then they have like the post game, which is like the actual hard stuff, right? Wonder has kind of like a weird mix of it, where it's like you pick the levels you want. You can skip most of them actually if you want to. You don't really need to play most of them, but they will throw in like here's an actual hard level too. And so they're kind of playing around with it. But yeah, I mean, most of them there is no real tension. You're supposed to explore and try to find all the secrets. And yeah, it would be great if there was more tension. Yeah.
I know this is revealing. Your review will be posted by then, but I just read something that has to be mentioned. He's speaking about the flowers in the level, and we can get into that, the talking flowers, but he says that rather that you can turn them off, but rather than turning them off, he preferred turning them to German. And all I can think of now is like some walking up to some flower. Just screaming at me.
That's what it's like. Yeah. I mean, it's great.
I'm going to have to try that now.
Yeah, I'm going to have to try switching the flowers to a different language. That would make it a lot more fun. It wasn't that
sorry for that
though.
random. Sorry for that rather random
no, it's
interruption, but
I didn't find those as or annoying as I thought they would be. Because in the trailers, they're just all kind of back to back. But
well, yeah,
they're
like
kind of spaced out in a way that's not annoying.
Yeah, well, I mean, the concept is just like unappealing, right? You don't want like some flower guy, whatever happens on screen, to just say like, "Well, that just happened," like and that's what, which is kind of what they're like in the game. But they do it in a way where sometimes it's fun, sometimes it's like trying to help you guide the player, or whatever.
Yeah,
it's okay. But I'd rather not hear them in English, so I switched the voice.
I didn't even think about switching the voice. Yeah, they didn't bother me that much. So, and they sometimes do say some goofy things as like, that gave me a chuckle. I appreciate that. But yeah, all these little details that could annoy people, could add to the fun. Yeah, this is a good Super Mario Brothers 3 and Mario World are literally my 1 and 2 games of all time. I don't know where this sits yet on that timeline, or my list, not timeline. I think this is going to be one of those where I'm going to have to replay it a whole bunch because Mario 3 and Mario World are just really, really hard to top to me.
Yeah, I think I like them more than this, but I mean, it's a lot of stuff that goes into it, though, right? I mean, it's a different feel. This Nintendo that's making Mario Wonder is very different from Nintendo that was making those games, right?
Yeah, but the spirit of those is in this.
Well,
it absolutely is.
The spirit of a lot of Mario games is in this one. It's it's you can kind of feel the difference, I feel like, and at least for me, I kind of prefer that old school where it feels like a bunch of guys were just kind of like having fun putting stuff in low key versus I mean, this is a great game. It's a greatly designed game in a lot of ways, but you can kind of feel the scientist a lot. And I don't think scientists necessarily made Mario 3, right? You can kind of feel just random stuff and weird stuff they did just because they thought it was wacky or fun. And
I feel like there is some of that with this. When you start getting to the later levels, it's like, oh my God, like what? They thought of this? This is nuts. Yeah. Like, and this is awesome.
And maybe there's a better way for me to phrase that. It's like, I guess when I play Wonder, I feel a lot of calculated fun. A lot of calculated fun. And I don't know. It feels different to me personally. But
no, I think because it sounds like you're talking about they use Mario World and 3 and other Mario as reference material where there wasn't any reference material for
Right,
them
and
before
it
other
makes it
than
different.
just Mario Brothers. And so
Yeah.
it was, how do we expand upon what Mario Brothers did and make this interesting? And so this is like, okay, well, let's look back. What did people like about Mario World? Okay, well, it had the world map, and there's some instances of Mario 3 where stuff is popping up on the map, and whatever else is happening.
Speaking of Mario 3, and what did you think of the bosses in this game?
I actually thought they were very inventive.
Yeah, really? Because they're kind of all the same variation of that one turtle boss in Mario 3 that where you jump on him and he goes back and forth. And I thought
Yeah,
that
no,
was
the
weird.
Mario 3 bosses were not great because they all generally did the same thing. I think Wendy Koopa in Mario 3 was like the one
Yeah.
outlier where,
She does like the magic wand thing. I mean,
well, she had the rings, and so the rings would
yeah,
bounce, where most
yeah.
everybody else just had the little wand and shoot out the three things, and then you had the level layout to deal with. You had, I think it was Morton Jr., where he would like stomp, and if you were on the ground, you would, be paralyzed for a moment. So you had little details like that, but generally they weren't that tough to fight. This one goes a little bit. Mario Wonder goes a little bit further, and instead of 3 hits, it's 4. So that threw me off at first. I was like, "Oh, 3! Oh, shoot, we got one. Okay, one more phase." But I felt like they tried to make it as clever and interesting as possible, and I would say generally the fights are more interesting than what Mario 3 did with the children.
Well, and I guess there's two layers to that, right? It's more interesting than Mario 3, yeah, but this is also like 30 years later, right? And they're still doing this same type of boss and just a little different. And it seems off to me like there's so many big ideas with the Wonder Flowers and the level design, and they're still like recreating this one specific boss from Mario 3. I don't know. It's it just seemed off to me, and it almost feels like an afterthought because some of the worlds you just don't have a boss at all, and they're just like, um, "You
Oh
passed the
yeah,
test. You passed the test, so no boss.
right,
Don't
yeah.
make us do another boss." um, and I don't know. It's one of those things where it stands out to me as just a little odd, and it's hard to make a Mario boss, right? Because
Yeah, you're
it's not
ultimately
like
Goomba stomping everything.
you're right. It's not like a type of game that lends itself to bosses, but I feel like you can kind of make up with that with like some kind of spectacle. And they do that a little bit with the Bowser Jr. stuff, but I don't know. It seems oddly muted compared to the rest of the game to me.
I agree that it is more muted than the levels and whatnot, but I feel like what they went for with the different layouts and different ways you have to fight Bowser Jr., I feel like it fits with what design they were doing with the whole game. The level designs are supposed to be interesting, so the boss designs aren't necessarily interesting, but the levels of the boss designs I think are what makes the fights a little bit more interesting. But yes, I mean, in terms of boss fights, Mario Odyssey I think takes the cake in terms of like best boss fights, but that's because it's a 3D platformer. There is more room to do some interesting things in a 3D environment when it comes to a one-on-one fight. 2D, that's a tougher thing to get, but I feel like this is one of the best versions of boss fights for 2D Mario for sure.
For 2D Mario. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's just because a lot of ways they're trying to match to 3D Mario, right? With all these different ideas and trying to like refresh. The We haven't really even talked about it, but I mean, I think the biggest change is that they're just adding so much life to the visuals and all this kind of stuff. Like that's the biggest difference from New Super Mario Bros. I think is that they kind of like refreshed everything to be like, oh yeah, here's some like actual animations like showing personality. Like here's some Goombas like
Oh
sweeping
yeah.
or doing stuff, and like, oh, these are like actual creatures and not just like abstract game mechanics. Um, and you see a lot of that, and it's just it's strange when things don't necessarily match up the whole way through. And you think that with all these Nintendo scientists they have, calculating their fun with the chemicals and stuff, they'd be able to like go a little further with the bosses, even if it's hard to do it. but it is what it is. I mean, they're fine. It's just like it's strange.
Yeah, I guess I don't know what you're looking for with the bosses. What are you looking for?
I mean, just something that feels different than the turtle guy you stomp on and he rolls around for a little bit.
Uh, well, I mean, yeah, but I mean, you take the water level, you had to like swim through airborne water bubbles, and
And then you stomp on him and he rolls around a little and then he does another thing.
well, okay, so if you add a situation where you have to come in with a specific power up, then you don't have that power up, then you're screwed, right? You don't have any other options. So that idea
Well,
is out the
I mean,
window.
part of it is just, you know, it could really be anything. I just think it's
It
weird
could.
to get hung up on the turtle boss from 30 years ago and like do different variations of that, because that's what Mario 3 did, right? It did like 8 variations of that turtle boss. And
Well,
then
yeah, it was all the children of Bowser, seven
yeah,
children of Bowser, but
yeah.
generally the way you fight them was
And then Bowser Jr. I guess killed them all and now he's the only child.
oh, so okay, so you want different bosses.
Yeah, that would help. I mean, that would be a step in the right direction, I think.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I did have the thought, oh, it's Bowser Jr. again. I didn't realize it was going to be Bowser Jr. the whole time. So yes,
He
that
looks
I
he
agree
looks
that did.
cool when he does the wonder thing. He looks cool. I like Bowser Jr., but you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. I did not expect that to be the case. So in that regard, yeah, it's a little disappointing. But in terms of the actual mechanics of each fight, they are far more interesting than what happened in Mario 3. Like if there is the only two knocks I really have against Mario 3 is the boss fights aren't incredibly interesting up until, there's Wendy and then there's Morton. And then the actual fight with Bowser. And then World 8 is kind of like just a suite of mini games of like, let's just throw every hard
Yeah,
auto
I
scrolling
hate
thing at you, right? So
I hate
like,
World 8, yeah.
yeah, World 8 is rough. I appreciate the difficulty, but in terms of like stylization, yeah, it's not the best. Um, I feel like this game kind of avoids all of that. Everything feels different. Everything feels like it is meant to surprise you. Even the boss fights and how you have to fight them, because even that first phase with Bowser Jr. in every world is, kind of a basic, okay, I just got to figure out how to Goomba stomp you. All right, I did that. And then he goes into wonder mode, and then you wonder, what do I have to do here? Right. So even that is like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, frick. Okay, let's figure this out. And then if you got a suit on, that could help or hinder depending on what suit you're wearing. But yeah, I feel like it's more thoughtful and interesting of a fight than anything Mario 3 did. And in some ways, Mario World as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, Mario World is, I don't know. I mean, I feel like of the Mario 2D ones, 3 is the best overall, just because, I mean, I feel like it's got more going on than World does, but yeah,
I mean, I went back and forth between which one was my favorite for about 15 years. Like,
yeah,
I played one and be like, oh yeah, this one's the best. And then it was like Mario 3, I played it again. Oh no, this one's like, it's just little things.
It's hard to let go of the spin jump thing that you do in World. Like,
I know, yeah, that is true. That feels really nice. But yeah, I mean, Mario Wonder, top 5 Mario game, easy. Like already, for sure. I don't think that can be debated. I think
well,
this,
top 5 Mario in general, or
yeah, in terms of the Mario franchise, as far as platformers go,
So
2D platformers.
2D go.
2D, yeah. Well, I feel like it almost wins that by default, but yeah.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, some people
You're not
got a lot
you're
of
not
love
putting
for
New
the new
Super
Super
Mario
Mario
on there.
series. Yeah, some people
As
got a lot of love for it.
as the person here who is not like very invested in Mario, this is a phenomenal Mario game. Like
So good.
I ended up buying this just because of the FOMO, and I'm glad that I let that. I'm glad that I caved to giving Nintendo money.
Yeah, same. I pre-ordered it. I, generally don't do that anymore. And I was like, you know what? I'm just do it. Like,
Yeah,
what?
we ended up
What?
having that discussion during the last podcast.
Yeah.
While we were prepared, it was either when we were prepping or when we got off, but one way or another, we talked about it.
Yeah. Do not regret it. Not one bit. Not one stinking bit. In terms of
No, I
all Mario games, yeah, I don't know. I don't know where this sits yet. My top 5 Mario games: Mario 3, Mario World, Mario Odyssey,
I was wondering
and
where Odyssey fell.
yeah, it finally did throw into Mario 64 because Mario 64 was my third best forever. Because Galaxy is fantastic. I love the level design of Galaxy, but that game is too freaking easy. It's too freaking easy. I have a billion lives. I don't die that often, so I lost respect on Galaxy for that one. But and Mario Odyssey came around, and I was like, oh frick! Like this, I beat that game, and I was like, this was better than Mario 64, like hands down. This is so good. And yeah, I guess I don't know. I don't know where Mario Wonder sits. I don't even know. I gotta look at my list again. I don't remember
well,
what my fifth is.
and I think one thing I'll say about it is I think it's probably the most consistently good Mario TD platform. There's no part in this game where it's like, oh, it's this part, oh, it's this level, right? I mean, it's all good, it's all fun.
It is, yeah. That's a good point. It is consistent. It is, yeah. Where Mario 3 and Mario World do have some, like, I wouldn't say lows.
It has parts you don't want to do.
It does, yeah. Like we said, Mario 3's World 8, it could have been better. The boss battles could have been better, but the highs are so freaking high. And then same with Mario World, yeah. Sometimes you just don't want to do some of the levels. They're not.
Yeah. Sometimes I don't want to do the ghost houses. I just
Yeah.
Man, ghost houses. I do not miss ghost houses.
Yeah, those weren't the most interesting design stuff. But the highs are so freaking high for that game. Where this is like the highs are high and they're consistent, but they don't reach that like, oh my god, like, holy freak, that was kind of crazy. So yeah, that's a great point. Well, by the time this is out, your review will be posted. So, what'd you give Mario Wonder, Jack?
I gave it an 85.
Whoa, that's lower than I expected. Okay.
Okay. All right.
No, I'm just saying I didn't expect it. I think I would have gave it a 90. Yeah. Not quite 100, but 90. So why did you give it an 85?
Well, I mean, like I said, I mean, I think it's a very consistently good game, and I mean, I think ultimately what it boils down to me is it's just there's a big conflict where I think it's a great game. I really enjoy it, but I don't know if I can necessarily love it in the same way that I love a lot of the different Marios because I can feel the scientists, I can feel the gears working. Where it's like, I wish it had a little bit because in a sense it's ambitious, but it's also very working in conventions and really working in established Mario places where I don't know if I can necessarily love and say it's like a huge innovation for Mario. It's more like this is a very good game with some fun ideas and twists on the Mario formula, but still in that Mario formula. Like you mentioned Odyssey. I mean, I like Odyssey a lot more, and it's just because it feels like it really is doing a lot of different stuff for Mario that Mario wouldn't normally do. And this is doing a lot of stuff that Mario does, but then also like add an extra layer of wacky on top of it, right? And so I don't know if it goes the extra mile where I'm like, yeah, this is one of my favorites, or this is like a 9 or a 10 or something like that. And obviously I think I say it in the review too. I mean, my worst complaint is that I wish there was more of it or it went further. So obviously it's not that bad of a problem to have. It's just when I think of a 9 or a 10, it's like, this is one of my favorite games. And I don't know if Wonder is necessarily on there.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know how much a 2D Mario game can um, riff on itself, like over time. Like I don't know how far these games can go in terms of what they're designed to do. Like Mario Odyssey clearly riffs off of Mario 64. They
In
add
some ways, it riffs off. We'll get into a whole other discussion here on this, but it's kind of like mixing Mario 64 with like the Galaxy 2 3D World stuff, right? I mean, it's got that big open map, and it's also like here's these small bite-sized levels, and it's taken stuff from all over, but it kind of feels like its own thing and has its own like sequences of personality. Like when you go to a New Donk City, I mean, that's not something a Mario game would do. And they give you like a reward for sitting on a bench with a lonely guy. I mean, it's like not something Mario would do. And they're not afraid to like go out of these weird comfort zones in a way that feels fresh. It felt fresher to me than really anything Wonder necessarily does. Not that I don't. I mean, I liked Wonder, but I realize I'm talking real vague stuff, but I mean that's kind of what it boils down to when I'm talking about my favorite things.
well, I feel like I don't know. I think it hits differently for me because some of the level difficulty, you ain't gonna find that level of difficulty in 95% of the new Super Mario series. Like it returns to a level of difficulty in a lot of levels that the new Super Mario franchise was just not willing to go for whatever reason.
Yeah,
and I appreciate that. Like Luigi U was difficult in a way that I appreciated, but most of the other part of the franchise is like, okay. Like I've seen this, I've done this, I can predict this. Okay, yeah, it's fine.
Yeah,
but Wonder is like, no, it's like, oh frick, this is some actually like some difficult platforming sequences in here that have made me retry and made me lose some lives. I like that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Wonder like kicks the crap out of Super Mario Bros. Right? I mean, it just does. But I'm thinking about Mario as a whole, and and one of the games I directly compare it to in my review is Mario Land 2. It's the Game Boy one.
Golden Coins was good. Yeah, I like that.
Well, and it's not even my favorite game, but
that one is wacky. Yes.
Yeah, and if you read the developers like interviews about it, they hate Mario. They don't want to work on Mario. They're the guys who invented Wario and started making games with him instead. And so they were specifically thinking about like, how can we make the game we want and not really care so much about what Mario's doing and what is important for Mario. And you can feel that, and like they're not stuck in the same paradigm that it kind of feels like the Mario Wonder team was, where it's like, yes, we're doing things different, but we're also we have to be stuck in these certain Mario like restraints because that's what people want from a Mario game. And that's the best way I could think of anyway to outline the difference of kind of what I would hope for in Mario in the future is like something that is really not even trying to be like a Mario necessarily, but still feels like Mario, which is like the worst criteria ever. But it's like something like a dumb executive would tell his like workers to do. It's like do everything great, but also not good at all. But
Well, this is the reason that I didn't get to talk about or didn't get to play Mario nearly as much. And that is because Alan Wake 2 is finally out. Fun enough, 5 minutes ago, just went live everywhere. So Alan Wake 2 is officially out. Our review is officially out as of this morning. And
that is Thursday, the day we're recording this, October 26th.
Yeah. I am...
You sound tired.
I am, but I'm also very happy at the same time though, because when the original came out, I worked that midnight release. I picked up the collector's edition and my copy of Red Dead Redemption, and I went home and proceeded to play Alan Wake and loved Alan Wake. Reviewed the remaster for us. I've been hoping for a very long time that we would see this game again. I remember Sam Lake putting out the video where he was having to tell everybody we're not going back to Alan Wake when they were moving forward to Quantum Break, and it actually like had him, you could tell it was hurting him to have to say all of that. And in our preview event, I actually brought that up, the video, and talked to him, and
Yeah, you made the man cry.
I feel bad because I actually made him cry because thankfully it was tears of joy because he just said that I asked him how he was feeling, with the big Alan Wake 2 banner behind him, and he said it feels fantastic. And I'm just so happy to see this vision finally come to fruition. And it's almost, I don't want to say it's a George Lucas thing in the sense of now the technology has caught up, because that's kind of almost where we're at we're so much further along now compared to what Alan Wake had to work with then. But it works in the sense of, he even said if he was working on this game then, what would have come out would have been completely different than what we have now. And part of that is because, and I guess I'll say this right off the bat, is there's a lot of control in Alan Wake 2, and not necessarily in the way you're playing the game.
You're talking about Remedy's control, right?
Remedy's control, yeah. Yes. It's not necessarily that as much as it's this whole cross-connected world thing is very much from the very moment you step foot in Alan Wake 2 is there. You actually, as you walk around Cauldron Lake, as you're investigating this ritual killing is the way it actually starts, and you're playing as Saga Anderson as the FBI agent that's part of this, you can actually walk over to the side and you see this buzzer for a thing called the Lake House that literally says it's part of the FBC on it.
The FBC being
the Federal Bureau of Control.
Oh.
So it is right away calling out the fact of this is the same world, and not going to spoil anything, but man, the FBC shows up in a big way, and one of the DLCs, there are 2 DLCs that are coming. One of them is going to be based off Night Springs, which is the TV show that was in the original game, and supposedly you're going to be playing as multiple different characters, so it sounds like they're going to have a lot of fun with this. It's like a Twilight Zone kind of show, so I'm very excited to see how creative they're able to get with it. But the second one is actually called The Lake House, so you will be exploring this Federal Bureau of Control facility. So it's like this is a very big part of how they're connecting these games right off the bat.
Yeah, I thought I saw something about a Remedy multiverse type of thing. So this is real.
That is in fact happening, and given they are working on Control 2, I would not be surprised at all if some of the implications of what happens in this game and in the DLC that's coming shows up in Control 2. Like that they're going to find ways to tie things together. I mean, for those that have played Control and Alan Wake, the whole taken over characters, the Taken, the Hiss, very, very similar. I'm not saying they're the same thing, and there's nothing that ever makes me think they are the same thing, because I don't even think the Federal Bureau of Control thinks they are, but it's at least really similar in different ways, and I wouldn't be surprised if they find some ways to tie these together just in their own way. So
does Max
really
Payne
cool.
show up in a post-credits scene? Like,
unfortunately, they did say that Quantum Break and Max Payne are not part of this connected universe.
Yeah, for now.
So
they will have their own universes.
So Max Payne does technically show up if you count the fact that Sam Lake plays one of the main characters.
Does he do the bass or like?
There is a moment that it shows up. I do not want to spoil where it is and how it happens, but man, it is. I was just, it's the face. I was doing that. I was definitely like just giddy watching all of it happen. so that I've kind of gone completely off the rails with where we
Sorry about
started
that.
because I
Sorry
started
about
with I started with something that literally is like a huge part of the game, but it's not even technically based in the
That's
game
that's
that it
the
is.
exciting part. Like you
So
have seen the
yes,
fullness of Alan Wake
yes.
2, and it's exciting.
Well, and it was cool because at this preview event we went to, they actually had Janina Gavankar there. Like, so Aiden Versio from Battlefront, she's playing this character, one of the FBC agents, Kieran Estevez, I believe is the name. And they showed us a really quick clip of a cutscene, and the first thing I thought was, is this a post credit? Is this going to be like towards the end? How in the world is this going to be a part of this? Is the FBC really going to be a big part of this game? And that's probably the coolest thing is the clip we saw was midway through the game. Like, so the fact that at the very beginning you're already establishing this agency here, and then midway through the game this agent shows up, and there's a whole lot that goes on. Again, not going to spoil anything, and I'm going to be very spoiler free in what I talk about story wise, which is tough because my goodness, story is literally what this game is.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're able to take that and really connect this, there's not a lot of games that have done connected universes in the way that Remedy is doing it.
I don't think there's any.
If any, because there's games that are obviously connected, but it's just straight sequels. Like,
Well,
it's
we're not talking like superhero games.
Yeah, this is full on like
no different world,
totally different area, like spots. Like they're in the same universe, but they're not. They're not the same game at all.
Right.
So it's really cool to see this happening, and you have to have a good writing crew. Sam Lake's one of the best writers out there for video games, and all the writers at Remedy are fantastic because even with all of this going on, they're managing to not only balance that, but this dual narrative. And that's one of the coolest things that you see in Alan Wake is you actually have two separate campaigns that feel connected enough that you're not sitting there upset because, oh, I'm playing this campaign. This should have been two different games. Like, I'm happy playing these side by side. And Sagas, it's more the regular Alan Wake, the original Alan Wake kind of experience, in the sense of what's really cool with it.
You're some people.
Yes, both sides you will be shining flashlights.
Okay.
But the cool thing with Saga's side is it's a really good jumping off point, considering that this game is 13 years later. There's going to be people who did not pick up the remaster, did not play the original, and Saga is inserted into this story as this person who doesn't know anything about this. So it's almost this perfect idea of, well, you're the main player and you're getting inserted into this with possibly not knowing anything about it. So we have a character in here that's going to kind of catch you up a little bit. And it's not a perfect catch you up on it at all, because there's a lot that you're finding out, and you're not learning necessarily about the first game as much as you're learning about what's going on right now. But it feels like a good point of entry even without it. I still think you should play the original before you play this one, but it's easier to handle because of the way that they have put Saga into this. And her side is interesting in the sense that she carries herself a lot more confidently than Alan did. Alan was obviously a panicky writer who probably hadn't really held a gun in his life, whereas this is a FBI agent that, yes, she doesn't know what's going on, but she definitely feels way more prepared than Alan did, and that she's like, there's one point where, she exclaims because all of a sudden one of the creatures zips around a corner at one point, just in front of you, and she exclaims, she drops an obscenity, but then immediately goes and, like, when she hears it moving around again, she goes, FBI. Like, she's immediately like going through protocol and everything, and is readying herself for the encounter. So it's cool to see her here in this way that she's a lot more confident, but they even find ways in the way that this story happens that she you manage they manage to make her still human in it, and you see her insecurities, her the things that are happening in all of this that she feels responsible for, with trying to fix the situation, to solve the mystery. And part of that solving the mystery, I don't know how much you've watched of what we've talked about, Jack, or what you've seen, but there's this area called the Mind Place that she has, that is this sort of it's an interactive room that functions almost like a menu, and
Okay.
you've got this case board that's on the wall that you'll go up to, and as you're talking with people, as you are playing through the game, you'll collect clues which you will then stick on this wall, and you'll have to associate them with different things. Now, it's not one of those things where you have to do it or you're hard locked. Like, there are some times that I actually went into it and I had already figured out where to go. So she was just like, oh, this goes here. And it was automatically getting thrown up there. But there are sometimes you're having to go into this mind place and put things together so you have the interactions to move forward. Like,
And
for
sorry, so,
instance, go
sorry.
ahead.
So just to clarify,
Yeah.
because I haven't followed like a ton of this stuff. So it was the idea like this game has kind of like an open structure where you can get lost and you have to kind of like piece together where you're supposed to go and what you're supposed to do.
To a degree, yes. Mostly there are some areas where you're kind of the only way through is forward, but there are a lot of open levels. Like for Saga specifically, you have three main locations. You have Cauldron Lake, Bright Falls, and Watery, which is a town outside of it. And all of those, for the most part, are pretty fully explorable. Not this huge open world, but a pretty good sized open area. So there are some things that you can find as you go along, not necessarily narratively, but some different side things that you can discover that'll help you with some upgrades and obviously items, things like that. Whereas there are some spots that are story walled. Like, for instance, one of the first things you do when you go to Watery, you have to speak with these bikers that own the trailer park, and they're of course standing in front of the path to get around and you can't walk past them, so you actually have to engage them and talk with them to not only push the story forward in the mind place, but that will also give you the ability to they will step out of the way, because then you've got the dialogue to talk to them next. Some of that is done with profiling, which it has a story specific piece to it, but it's not this thing where I'm trying to think of the best way to put it across. It's kind of like you go to the person's picture, you click on an index card that has like a question or a statement of something, and then Saga is kind of intuiting things about them that gives you dialogue, for instance, to talk to them and such. So it is clicking through menus to a degree, but it's nice exposition. You get to learn some things. And again, there's actually a story centric reason that she's able to intuit these things through this profiling, and it's really cool how they tie that together with the rest of the game. So it's a major plot point, even if it isn't necessarily this end all be all mechanic in terms of, oh, this is so innovative compared to everything else.
So is that just for the new character and not for Alan? So is he like different or?
So what's cool is that's for Saga. Alan actually has a similar thing in the writer's room. So it's a very similar area in design. And one of the interesting things, it is actually running over the top of the game. So it's one of those things where if you go into that, you are not paused. It is not stopping everything else going on in your area. So it's kind of to me, it's a bit of a technical marvel that they have this running, especially as how good as the game looks, because it really is like you can access it instantly. Like you press the button, you're there. So there's no loading times, meaning that it has to be just running. and you jump into it. And for Alan, the difference with him is instead of profiling and case boards, because he's in the dark place, he is actually trying to get out. And of course, for people who know, Scratch, his doppelganger, is also trying to get out. He's trying to stop Scratch. And he's like, Scratch keeps changing my book. I've written this. It's another one of those instances where Alan's written a book when he doesn't remember. And he's like, and Scratch is like editing this book so he can get out. And he's like, so I have to go and write another thing and do more edits so that I can get out before he does and keep him from getting out. And so Alan is going to these, he's almost like he's writing this new story to get him to this point where he can do these edits. And that is taking place in the dark place where there's these mysteries that are happening around him. And I forget how exactly it's described at the very beginning. It's like the story is very meta, and then it's a story about Alan who's going around following this mystery by Alex Casey, who is his character in the books, and he's trying to find a way out. Like, the story is about him trying to get out. So it's this meta kind of feel weirdness to it. And Alan gets to these places in the story, and he's essentially trying to build himself loopholes through it by changing the way that in solving this story. And the cool thing is when you get to these different sections, these different scenes, like there's a place, for instance, that's the ballroom that's in one of the parts of Alan Wake. And it'll say specifically at the bottom what the scene is, like that you are in the scene of the ballroom. Well, when you're there, you can actually change what the plot is. So when you get there, there's no plot assigned, but you could change over to, let's say I just completed one story element in the rehearsal space, and it gave me this new plot point, let's just say the haunting, and I go up and I put that plot point in place at the ballroom, the room will change. And again, another technical Marvel kind of thing, because there's just this little tiny scene that plays out over the top of your current scene, that this overlay of Alan typing away, and all of a sudden, boom, you're in this different space. And like with this one, it was like this nice setup theater, and all of a sudden, all the chairs were thrown across the room. And I think there may have been blood on the floor, and there was Alan's writer's desk is up above, and then there's a new echo or a new story beat for me to look at and go through the cutscene, fight some characters, and suddenly I've got a new scene that I can go take to another area that I might have already... a lot of the scenes I had already discovered. It was needing to go back to some areas, backtrack a bit, almost Metroidvania it a little bit, and change the plot going on in those scenes so that I could move the story forward. And it's just really cool the way they've gone about this.
Are these like, so you say it's like Metroid, so are these like keys you put in different places, or are they like puzzle things where you can like put the same piece in a bunch of different places?
So they do have different keys to unlock different rooms as you go around, but there are two different ways that you're making these changes. And one is just showed on the screen. It's the angel lamp, where you'll remove like a light. You'll get a prompt for it. You remove light from a certain area, and it will actually change the area like completely. Anthony, will you scroll it back just a little bit so Jack can actually see it real quick on the screen? It's before the crawling. Right here. So there's this. Okay, go back just a little bit more again, if you wouldn't mind. Sorry. It happens real close to the front of this. So Alan comes up these stairs, and there's this prompt. So everything looks pretty regular and everything like that. There's no way forward. Boom. Scene just changed. So now I can move over to that. Now, the difference with the other scene change is you are choosing the element of the scene change. So the room is going to look one way when you go to it just naturally, but then as you put these new story beats, these new plot points, when you put those over the top of it, it changes the way that the room is even laid out. And that either opens up the way for you to, usually it's just that it opens up, sometimes it opens up a new way forward in terms of the level layout. But most of the time it's that you get an echo, which is essentially a overlay cutscene so that you can get the next plot point, so that you can take that. And it doesn't always matter, that plot point doesn't always matter where you're at. Because, for instance, as I described changing over to the haunted cutscene, I got a new cutscene called The Devil, and I swapped that in, and suddenly not only is the room have all the chairs strewn around in this ballroom and, you know, the blood and stuff in my writer's desk, but you also had dead NPCs like everywhere, all over the place. And then there was actually like blood writing all over the walls and such. Like, it was just really more intense. But the scene itself, while the scene changed, it didn't have anything new for me. So I needed to take that plot point of the devil and take it to a different area of the hotel that I was in to actually push the story forward. Like, and so I took that to the hotel lobby, that the devil plot point to the lobby, and it actually opened up the stairs so that I could go up the stairs, for instance. So it's really, really just a cool way to tell your narrative, and while still doing this whole metro, like the same thing happened in Control. Like, it was very similar in the ways of you had to go back to areas with different powers and stuff. This, you're going back to different areas with new narrative to apply to that area, which changes the area. And it's just, it's a really cool way for you to use your tech and change the way that is.
Now I have to ask you, you're a Call of Duty guy. You know how to shoot stuff. You play with a controller. It seems like you're having a little trouble shooting some of these, whatever, the shadow creature thing. I haven't played Alan Wake, so I apologize. But these little shadow things that don't seem to move in very interesting ways until they decide to do some little warpy stuff.
Oh, so, dude, the warp, though, that's creepy too. So I will go ahead and say not all of this is my gameplay. Some of it is B-roll.
Oh, okay.
So not everything is. I actually, if you go and look at the preview, because this is actually footage from some of the preview that I posted on YouTube.
This is from the preview.
So,
Okay.
yes, because it is part of the. Yeah, it's part of the game. I still played this part like during review. It was just oh, I've already got this. But
I didn't realize it was the preview footage because I was like,
you're fine. Which, Jack, this right here is the plot board. Like, this is how you literally go in here and change and then this is what happens. Boom.
Okay.
But what's funny is I got several compliments on the fact that I could actually shoot people, where in other preview videos they had watched, people were missing all over the place. I am smart enough
I have high
when it comes to
David.
When it comes to Call of Duty, I'm smart enough to know if I'm using a controller, I might as well use aim assist or take advantage of the aim assist, and that comes into play here because I learned very quickly from the beginning of playing it that, you know, you're going to, because it's the survival horror style, you're going to empty a couple bullets in. None of them really feel like sponges, but you're going to put in your bullets, whether you like it or not. I figured out that if I keep doing the aim in, keep ADSing, that a lot of times it would just zoom into the head if I was aiming in that area. So, fam, I was ADSing multiple times and just hitting them. Occasionally, like you said, that warp, or they would do a movement and I would lose it. Right there, you see the new plot element that I got, Jack, in that bottom corner. And then it'll change and the room will look different again.
Okay, that's cool.
Yes. But I was getting the better of a lot of these creatures. The game is not inherently difficult. Probably the biggest thing is just you got to remember to burn away the darkness. You've got to make sure that you are, which to me is still one of the coolest mechanics in one of these games, in a survival horror, whatever you want to call it, game is just the fact that you're having to use this flashlight to burn away the darkness, the shield, so to speak, first, and then you get to actually shoot them. Like, you can't do any damage to them otherwise. So to me, I think that's just one of the by far coolest mechanics that's out there. It's just a very unique feeling that it has, and the audio cues for it are just awesome. Like, there's just this whine as you burn that darkness away with a very satisfying like sound when it expels the darkness from the enemy, and then you just shoot them. And I said it during our preview, there's nothing like the sounds of gunshots in this game. The service pistol sounds fantastic. Alan Wake's revolver sounds amazing. The shotgun, man, you feel all of it in your chest. It's like I'm shooting a gun. There is just an explosiveness to every single one of the weapons. And it can kind of trick you to a bit because you don't get these audio cues of I'm actually getting my hits in. Because, I mean, it's not like when you shoot a gun in real life, you get audio hits for you're hitting the person beyond the audio cues of they've been hit and they're making noise of being hit.
Ow, I've been hit.
Yeah, but these are kind of almost undead characters to a degree, so it's like when you're shooting, you're hearing it. If you want to unmute it right here so you can hear some of it, it just sounds great.
Come on!
As you can see here, I'm a good survival horror player and I'm cheesing the safe room.
Can't go in there.
Now, here's something fun that Alan Wake did, Alan Wake 2 did, that I didn't expect because of what I did in this demo. Obviously, I'm cheesing this safe room. There are, like, these lights out in, like, pole lights that are out and about when you are on Saga's side. And I was playing all of that. I was doing all of this. I sat in there and cheesed it one time, and suddenly the pole light went out. It flickered and went out, and I'm like, crap! And I started running away, because what it is it's not that they can't just can't come in. It's not just that. They actually cannot see you. The light like, they cannot see you through the light, so you're actually hiding in the light. That's which is really cool. But the fact that Remedy thought to, hey, let's make this so that it's not an every time thing. I know that was kind of something the Resident Evil 2, I think, remake did, was crap, Nemesis can sometimes come into the safe room.
Yeah.
And that broke the convention for people. Well, it's similar in that feel.
Yeah, no, that's one of the big things, like, it's in the very first Resident Evils. You know, you have that loading animation of the door, and so, like, whenever you go through a door, you're going through a separate dimension. And then the first, like, remake of the Resident Evil, like, zombies can just go through doors now, and so it's fun. Like, when I'm looking at this gameplay footage too, I mean, so does this feel a lot more? Because Alan Wake, it had horror stuff, but I don't know if I would classify it like a survival horror game, right? You're mostly like running around shining the flashlight and people throwing stuff at them, but this is like you have like an inventory and stuff, and all that stuff you keep track of in survival horror games. Is that like a big part of the game, or is it?
It's very Resident Evil in design, because not only so the first game had a lot of recharging of things. If you went in the light, your health recharged. If your flashlight automatically recharged, whether you had batteries or not. You use those batteries just to get the quick re-up of your flashlight and didn't have to wait for it. In Alan Wake 2, there are health items, and that is the only way you can recharge your health. There's some that happens when you get into these safe havens, but it's very minor comparatively to what the original Alan Wake did. And similarly, you actually can run out of your flashlight. There are multiple charges in this game for your flashlight. Like, each one, you start with 4 for each battery. meaning I have to think about using my charges and can't just go crazy with it because some of these creatures do move around a lot. And if I am not hitting them correctly, I might miss burning the darkness off of them completely. And it does feel like you can take some really tough hits, and you have to think about it. And they've Remedy has also just gone in a much more, I'm trying to think of the best way to put it, but it's much more of a horror direction, even just in story, because the original Alan Wake, it was more of the suspenseful thriller. Like I said, they classified it as a psychological thriller. But in this one, with
Yeah.
the ritual killings that they have, the way that they've presented everything, like there are some parts, I mean, they're just very frightening. I wouldn't say that there are a ton of intensely terrifying moments, because I feel like the game does a really good job of presenting you with some, I don't want to say, like there is some funny elements to it, some humor that they have in there, and there are some there are some things that I wish I could spoil, because they are there are some tone shifts, and Remedy's always been that for tone shifts, where it's just like, where did that come from? What the heck just happened? And that happens so many times. And Remedy keeps getting away with completely changing the tone of something, but it's perfect, and I don't care that they're getting away with it. Go ahead. You are making the weirdest things, which is one of the reasons a lot of people compare a lot of what they had to like Twin Peaks, and why the game is kind of, has those relations to it, is because Twin Peaks was just, it wasn't that it was necessarily just frightening or horror, it was that it was weird too. So
Yeah, well, and when I see
they managed
this,
to do that well.
has anyone else watched Twin Peaks, or is it just me?
I haven't watched it. I
Okay.
know about it. I just haven't watched it.
Yeah, well,
I haven't watched.
I mean,
I don't know anything about it.
yeah. Well, and it's like there's a TV series, and then there's a movie, and then they brought it back for like some sequel TV series. I mean, when I see this compared to, the first game, the TV series is kind of, it's got some fun, lighthearted stuff in it. Like everyone always quotes the stuff that the secret agent does with his coffee and stuff. Like it's fun, it's kooky, but it also has a few moments of terrifying stuff, and that's kind of how the first Alan Wake is. But the movie was like, it was like actually just kind of like a sick and disturbing version of that TV show, and that's kind of what the vibe I get from Alan Wake 2 is that they're going a lot harder on the more disturbing stuff.
There are moments on it, but I guess the easiest thing, and this is how I actually put it in the review, it isn't ever gruesome for the sake of being gruesome. Like that's something that I appreciate about what they've done. They're intelligent about how they're putting this out, like how they're doing. They're not looking for cheap scares in how they're doing it, and that's why I enjoy it, because like I said, there are probably two moments. This is one of the moments where the hotel moment is can be very terrifying with the way that they've built it. And there's another level on Saga's side that is quite terrifying. It was the most terrifying for me in the game. Like I actually had my headset on right here because I was just so, it was a lot more intense, but those were the two moments that were the most intense, whereas everything else, yes, there were creepy moments and such, but it wasn't like Remedy was just sitting there trying to go boo around every corner, if that makes sense. And that, I like that, because they're allowing me to not just focus on being afraid, they're allowing me to actually ingest what is going on around me. And that doesn't always happen in horror games, and that's what at least in my mind are probably what the best horror game. I'm not a big horror game guy, so it might be different for different people, but I feel like those are the best horror games, are the ones that actually want their players to ingest things, because if I'm just constantly being scared, I'm not actually immersed in what's going on the screen usually. It's like I'm actually engaging in what's going on, and it's like, oh, that's creepy what you're doing with this. That's horrifying what's actually happening here, because I had the chance to engage with it and it be horrifying for the engagement, not necessarily horrifying because, oh crap, this thing screamed and jumped in front of me.
Yeah, Remedy just, I mean, they write their games with like a sense of like mystique that kind of draws you and helps you like kind of put yourself in their situation a little bit, where you can kind of imagine things. I mean, Alan Wake, he's a writer. Obviously, nothing scarier than being a writer, but
We would know that.
yeah. But I mean, I mean, it's the way they write the games, it feels like there's something more engaging going on than just like the surface, no matter what they're doing. And so, yeah, I mean, I absolutely believe that. And I mean, I'm looking forward to playing it. Hopefully, I can do it sometime soon. Deathmatch with Spidey.
There's a lot that happens with that. I know I started discussing it on the dual characters thing, but there's a lot of points where you're like, what are you setting up? Like, I'm a big fan of Christopher Nolan films, and like The Prestige and Inception are favorites, partially because you watch these movies and you're like, what the heck is going on? Not because the story isn't being told well, but because there's so much information that is left out intentionally, and they're giving you they're baiting you just enough to keep you engaged in it. And Remedy does this really, really well, and to the point where there are some points in missions where you're like, I just don't know if this is going to pay off. Like, you straight up, you're like, this is convoluted. I don't know. I'm not sure. But man, I got to the end game of this game, and there were so much payoff in so many moments, and down to the last scene in the game, you're like, oh my, this is what was happening? This is what was being said? This is what was going on? And you just sit there with your just mind blown of, okay, I've got to sit back and digest what just happened. Similar again to watching Inception, watching The Prestige, and Remedy does manage to have one of those moments at the end of this game, like Inception, where bro spins the top and you never see what happens to the top. And you're like, just tell me. and they do that in this game. So I'm kind of excited that they feel so confident that they're going to be able to follow up on this, because I don't know that you can follow up on these specific story threads in the DLC or in Control. Like, I think that a lot of these story threads will have to be in an Alan Wake 3. So, as critically acclaimed as it is, I think they're going to get it.
That would be great. I mean, yeah, Alan Wake was one of those games where you play it and you can just tell this is just like a fun and special kind of game where there isn't really anything else like it. And it always kind of felt, when Sam Lake was giving his like, you have a terminal disease speech about the game, it's like, yeah, it's just not going to happen. It's just not the kind of game that will get a follow up in a decade. And to see it happen is great, and that they're confident that there's going to be more. I mean, that's really cool, because the whole building up the Remedy verse or whatever. I mean, that's fun, and especially for something like this where it's not like really big superhero properties or like some major thing. It's like these are like the ideas they've had sitting around forever, and they're just kind of like putting them out into the world, and it's cool.
Yeah, and they're doing it with a great cast too. I mean, the characters are all fantastic. I think it's Ilka Vili and Matthew Peretta are Alan. They both play Alan. One is the character and one is the voice. He was phenomenal in the first game. So he's phenomenal in this game. And then you have James McCaffrey voicing Sam Lake's Alex Casey, which it's so great seeing Sam in this game. Like, it's not just this quick character thing. He's very in this game. Like, there's one part that's just I just blew me away that I won't spoil, but it's the way that they're woven into this game. Melanie Liburd, I don't know how you pronounce it, but her saga is very heartfelt, very, very well played. And the cool thing is they're doing all of this, and they mixed in all these live action scenes into the game. So you get those couple of Quantum Break like moments of cutscene where it's the actual scene playing out in front of you, but this time it's a lot more melded and mixed in to the game. So I like that. That's better than sitting there and having to watch a 45-minute TV episode. As much as I thought that was a really cool idea in Quantum Break, I don't know that it functions well for every gamer. So it works well here, especially considering the characters are really well designed. The game is gorgeous. I mean, we just watched quite a bit of it, which I threw the Saga gameplay down there as well, Anthony, if you want to play that. And it's just like they've done such a good job of just making this game look good that it can meld that way. And the echoes that you saw in the game, those are a lot of the times those are the live action moments with just more shadowy. So it's really cool how they've managed to meld real life and a video game and really make it so personable with this cast of characters. Saga, I feel like we haven't talked a lot about her, but again, she's just such a well done character. It could have been, this game could have been very questionable in the choice to make another character a lead character, but the way that they bring her into all of this, the way that they actually tie her into the story is just so wonderfully well done. Like I'm very, very happy with how they put this together. This right here, Jack, you'll see this is the profiling I was talking about, where she's intuiting this stuff about the characters that she's talking to. It's her place in all of this is just, it's going to be very interesting to watch as they continue on with the story, because she is now interwoven into this entire Remedyverse. Like you are going to, it'll be very interesting to see how they continue to use her and figure out how they want to move forward with her character. Because some of the most interesting parts was just some of the people in Bright Falls were talking about her like they knew her, and it was because the Dark Presence was taking the story from Mr. Scratch and it was starting to leak out into the world, and she's like, okay, things are changing. People are acting like they know me, but they've never actually known. I've never been here before and all this. Again, it's that weird thing of people talking, hey, Saga. She's like, do I know you? So it's just, it's how the players, it's kind of how the players feel. Like I mentioned earlier, the players that haven't played this series before or that are just now jumping in, hi, new player. Do I know you, Alan Wake 2? And it's just really well done. Good on your, Remedy. You continued making an incredible narrative that I knew you could, but needed to see you do with this game.
All right, so what did you rate it?
I gave Alan Wake 2 a 90 out of 100. I think it's well deserving of it. My biggest problems I had were technical issues, to be honest with you. Like, honestly, it is the first thing I say in the summary is there's nothing you will play this year like Alan Wake 2. It may be until Alan Wake 3 before you play another thing like Alan Wake 2, because there's nobody that has done something like this. Like, not only is this pressing at the precipice of what current gaming is able to do with the lighting, with just the environments being so well put together. It's just a very gorgeous game. The settings that they're putting together, the technical advancements of again, the dark play, or not the dark place, this pause menu running over the top, essentially, that's not a pause menu, it's actually like a piece of the game. But then just the fact that they're able to do this with a dual narrative that is just a phenomenal narrative, and they tie it all together perfectly in the end. It's it's a triumph of a return, and few games get a chance. Not every game gets a chance to make a sequel in general. Not every game gets a chance to make a good sequel right away. Alan Wake did it 13 years later. That's almost unheard of, and I'm just glad to see that they're getting a chance and they're even able to use some of what they've already learned and what they've already done in Control and make this narrative even more bombastic than it already is. City Skylines.
Yeah, so it came out, but I think this is one of the more bizarre takes I've heard from a developer when it comes to performance issues. So City Skylines 2 came out, and its performance on PC across the board isn't consistent. So rightfully so. People are they're complaining, they're upset. Let me remove this wheel.
Pretty sure I don't remember if Ron did a review in progress or how he did things, but he even said it's very like he actually had a conversation with me on if it should be a review in progress or a score because of how bad the performance was for him.
Wow, that's some level of confliction when the editor in chief goes to the lead editor and goes, "I need a second opinion on this."
So just know, people, it's that bad.
Yeah, and I just downloaded it today too because I was so excited. But I'm see how it is through the Game Pass app. Probably not any better. But here's what Colossal Order, the developers of City Skylines 2, here's what they said, and I'm going to read from their official post on their forums. Okay, so quote. While some setups on PC have challenges, we concluded the performance is not a deal breaker for all the players. For us, the number one priority is for the players to have fun with the game, and we had seen enough feedback from players enjoying the game that it would be more unfair to postpone. We know we will keep working on the game and do our best to fix issues as fast as possible, so we wanted to respect the announced release date and allow people to start playing the game. End quote. Now, real quick, I can already see Jack bubbling. So let me just say this. They have technical reasons for doing this. Mostly, they want to smooth the simulations. They don't want the CPU to be bottlenecked. So their target is 30 frames per second, but it's not even reaching that for what seems like a lot of people. Okay, go ahead, Jack. I can see you moving.
Well, I mean, it's a fun spin.
It feels like spin.
What is spin, right? I mean, we released an incomplete game, and actually, it's so fun that we couldn't help ourselves. We have to get it in everyone's hands, and we'll fix it later. Which, I mean, to be fair, that's how a lot of games are now, right? I mean, they release a bunch of problems, and they're like, "We'll fix it later," and then most of the times, they fix most of it, right? And just it speaks to a lot of the problems that come with game releases right now and just how it structures that there's no real flexibility for it, right? Like everyone plans out these big budget games, and I mean, really any kind of game these days is a big financial gamble where you can't really push it back, because if you do, it's going to be a big chaos for everyone because they're betting so much money on getting a return back at this date, and it's just not very flexible. And so they released it because they needed the money, right? I mean, that's just what it is. But and maybe they'll funnel it back and it'll be fine in the end, sure. But I mean, it's kind of gross to get statements like this, right? Where actually it's like putting in the hands of like their player base or their fans and be like, actually, this is your fault because you guys just need it and you're gonna accept it and that's fine. And I don't know, it's a little gross, right?
Is this do you think this is a Colossal Order decision or a Paradox Interactive decision?
Whoever's a higher, I don't know the companies. Whoever's higher up is like, we need this out now. And
Paradox is the publisher.
Yeah, it's probably the publisher. Then they're like, we need this out now. We need the money, and then we've got our DLC
Called
team.
Fam, we're done developing.
Well, and it just happens all the time. Like they just released that Metal Gear collection and like has stuff that like obviously doesn't work at launch. And like these are like super old games, man. Like, why are you launching this super old game collection with like missing features and stuff? I mean, what kind of deadline are you trying to meet for 20-plus-year-old game re-releases where you can't like just get it all done and then just have it out? Like, why is this an ongoing project?
We're talking about City Skylines
I,
too,
I know,
right?
and
Like this isn't like a
it,
big budget AAA game, so I don't understand. Like I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. The fact that I don't why you could delay this. If this is going to be something that could probably be fixed within the next week or two, then delay the game. If it's going to take longer, delay the game. Just this is one of those you just delay the game, and their excuse is it's unfair to the people who have been waiting, so we don't want to ruin their fun. You're ruining other people's fun right now because they're not enjoying the game because there's a performance issue. Our editor in chief can't even properly review the game because the performance is so poor. So he wants to do a potential review in progress. You can't. You can make all the decisions you want in terms of who you want to alienate, but you can't.
You're alienating everyone with that decision because let me just put it to word here. If I picked up Alan Wake 2 and had those kind of issues, I would be so disappointed. Like I legitimately would be I would be crestfallen. And I know it's not the same kind of game, but to say, oh, we want our fans to be able to play. They don't want to play it if it's garbage.
Well, according to them, they got data that does suggest they don't care about the performance, which
it's on Game Pass. So if you're not paying the full price for it, of course you're not going to care.
Well, and here's the worst part is I believe that to an extent because that's how Pokemon operates, right? You know, they release these broken games they cobble together in like a year, and they do it because there's no time, and it's like, well, people are going to buy millions of copies, and that's just going to be how it is.
yeah, but City Skylines ain't got the cachet as Pokemon. Like City Skylines is fantastic. The first one was fantastic. I'm not even a city simulator kind of person, but I played that and I was like, I love the frick out of this. I can't wait for the second one. I don't think these kind of, especially PC players, their patience is so fickle. Their allegiance can they're allied, but as soon as you screw them, they are not going to be happy. They're going to express their displeasure.
And here's the caveat is I can believe what they're saying to an extent because I can believe they have some kind of department of people who are like, we're collecting all this data and we're going to decide this is right and that we can get away with this. And they can be totally wrong, but they'll do it based on that data. That happens all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea that they, you know, they have the data to back up their lame excuse. Yes, of course.
People make calls on analytics all the time.
Oh yeah. Now, how do you think Xbox feels? This gets on Game Pass. They know this is a game people want to play. This is one of those. Why you subscribe to Game Pass? Because freaking City Skylines 2 is on there. Like this is a niche, therefore new subscribers for Game Pass. And then it releases like this. Obviously, it's not like Xbox can be like, shame on you considering how Redfall came out. But still, like knowing
Xbox
the trajectory Xbox is trying to go, I can only imagine how they feel.
They have no shame. They'll roll with it. It's fine. They rolled with Redfall. They roll with all the stuff. I mean, that I don't know.
Well, Redfall was theirs. I don't know if they're approaching it from Paradox or Colossal Order.
They'll be like, we'll give you less Game Pass money next time, but we're cutting back on Game Pass money for everyone. So that was.
I guess we'll see. Well, I guess the subscriber count will tell all for that.
I saw something where it's like maybe it was just like some like because they have like an executive guy and they're like taking away Game Pass subscription numbers from him because they're not high enough to actually put all the weird trajectory, stuff and metrics they use for the Xbox. I mean, it's just we're talking about analytics departments. It's like an entire company run by weird analytics departments. Oh, and I don't know. It's strange to me, but no, I don't think Xbox has any shame.
You know the King Kong game we talked about last week, and I'm mostly talking to the audience right now. But the King Kong game that everybody's dunking on. Okay, now we know, David, Jack, we know why this game is so bad. Okay, we knew there was a reason, but now we actually know the reason. So a developer anonymously talked to Ash Parrish from The Verge and told her that they had 1 year to get the job done. It was basically from June 2nd, 2022 to June 2nd, 2023. Isn't that crazy? 1 year for a licensed game? To me, I don't think it matters how old Kong is. Who is interested in King Kong at this point? But you can't do that to any developer for any game this particular size. Am I off on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's complicated, right? Because this used to be how games worked all the time, like 20 years ago. I mean, they just throw crap together for licensed things and just put it out. I mean, that's just how entire development teams worked. And obviously, you look at this game. I mean, like you said, who cares about King Kong, right? Like, who cares even remotely about that? How much money are you going to really allocate in terms of dev time for a King Kong project, right? So, the way these things work, right? They hire out different contract studios and get where they agree, we're going to get this done within this time frame. And, we put together a crappy King Kong game. And, I mean, in a sense, you're setting them up for failure, but at the same time, how long are you really going to spend on a King Kong game, right? Like,
well, then you call into question why even make the game in the first place? Like, why are you trying to make this King Kong game when there is no audience for this?
Well, because I don't know if necessarily the goal is to make money.
$50.
I think the goal might be to perpetuate.
What'd you say, David? Because your mic was super low. Sorry, Jack.
Oh, I'm sorry, especially at $50.
Oh yeah. Okay, go ahead, Jack.
So a lot of times, like you see it all the time with Netflix or like all those big companies that they'll commission a lot of garbage. And obviously they're not making streaming doesn't make people money whatsoever in general, but like obviously these smaller shows and smaller movies don't make any money either. There's outside like money changing hands and like investing in other things that justifies projects like this sometimes, where it kind of keeps the wheels turning in various different places. And obviously I don't know the finances behind King Kong, but I mean, obviously I feel bad for the developers because I read the story. I mean, it sounds like they had a real bad time. At the same time, you kind of wonder, like, isn't it better to like spend 1 year on a crappy license game instead of like 6 or 7, like are happening to some of these projects? Like Suicide Squad's not gonna go well, right? I mean, that's just
I think it depends on the game. I don't think Iguanabee would make something. Iguanabee's the developer.
No, but like put yourself in this situation, right? You're the game developer. It doesn't really necessarily matter what kind of game you're working on. You work on a game for 1 year, and that's your project, and that's it, and you're done. Versus whatever kind of hellscape is going on at Rocksteady with the Suicide Squad game, where you're spending like 6-7 years of your life on this, and everyone's already kind of decided it's not going to turn out good, and you have no choice, and you're locked into it. I mean, it's tough,
but your reputation
right?
is being damaged the more nonsense that you're working on. Like at this point, Iguanabee's biggest complaint is that the publisher continues to give them these kind of projects, and they have to take them in order to keep their studio open. But now other publishers and others who want to contract them for work know them as a licensed game studio. So they're like, well, frick, we'll give them some of our licensed product. And then they have something like, what was the game called? It was, they were able to make their own game. What Lies in the Multiverse, I think it was what it was. That was their game, not by Game Mill or anything like that. And that game actually did well critically, and it's 85, I think, on OpenCritic with a 81% recommendation rate or something like that. The numbers might be reversed, but they can't do those kind of games because they keep having to churn out licensed garbage, and the opportunities decrease for them to be able to do their own thing that would probably turn out a lot better for them, not only critically, but financially over time, because they have to keep on doing this garbage that people keep giving them because, okay, it pays the bills, but their resume is looking worse and worse.
Well, I mean, it depends on what you do, right? Like, it's complicated because this has been going on for decades. I mean, this is how the industry works, right? My favorite game developer, like, of all time, actually, Inti Creates. They got their start making like Mega Man games contracted out by Capcom, and in between that, they would make a bunch of these licensed games, and eventually they started publishing their own games, like after almost 15 years of running their company this way. I mean, it's not a fast process,
Sure, yeah.
and you can't, you gotta, it would be great if everyone could work on exactly what they like to, right? Like, we talked earlier, I think off the podcast, but like, it'd be great if the legal stuff was my side job, right? But that's,
Sure, yeah.
you gotta, sometimes you gotta go through crap. You gotta do what pays the bills. And yeah, you can point to, I mean, you don't have to put everything on your resume, right? Um,
No,
and,
but I
and,
mean,
and,
like,
and
what are you
sometimes
going to leave
having,
off when most of it is
and,
bad?
well,
Right. So,
and part of it is like, well, maybe you can point to like, well, I did this one specific thing in this time frame, and maybe you can explain it that way. Or you can, I mean, a lot of these people really what they should be doing is working on their own stuff outside of work too, and like building
I'm
out
sure they
different,
are.
yeah. And you can't necessarily rely on what pays the bills to like get you to where you want to be.
Sure.
Um,
But as a
and so
studio, like that is the ultimate goal. Like, and I understand that's why they are doing this and these kind of projects. But this was a project for them that blew up so bad for them because everybody, including us, dunked on them. So, I mean, this was one of those. It's like, no, there's some damage control we need to do. So somebody was like, I'm just going to anonymously talk to the press because this is bad. This is bad press for us, and
Not good
this
optics.
horrible optics. Because if this story did not come out, this is how I would label Iguanabe. Separate from what lies in the multiverse, it's like, oh, they had one hit. The rest is garbage. I would write them off as a developer. Like I would, oh, Iguanabe made this. Psh, what are the chances that'll be good? Slim to none, right? So now
well,
that we have context,
alternatively,
huh?
without King Kong, you probably wouldn't be talking about Iguanabe ever at all under any circumstances. So
Right, but that's the problem with this particular situation for Iguanabe. This game that we probably wouldn't know about, but I guess it's King Kong, so I guess it was big enough to create some attention. But that attention was so bad because the internet was dunking on them. You got to fix that. Like, so this is
well,
what they decided to do.
and it's an interesting dilemma because part of, just to go back to the AAA stuff real quick. I mean, a lot of those games are in development forever, then get canceled, and everyone signed an NDA, so they can't talk about it. So you have like years of your life gone completely too. I mean, a lot of the situations there's just no winning. Sometimes you're attached to bad projects. Sometimes you can't even tell anyone what you did on anything.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just like major problems of how game industry handles their talent too. Just like it seems like they want to bury individuals as much as possible. Like you can even see it like in stuff like, so like Hideo Kojima, obviously he had his big dramatic exit from Konami and all that.
Yeah. That was ugly.
And if you look at how Konami handles their staff now, you don't really know anyone who's doing stuff. Like they have these Castlevania collections they're releasing, and they'll have interviews with staff, but they'll just label him as Castlevania producer, as in you don't get his name. They don't want you to know who these people are who are working on their games anymore. And it's just like it's very strange and it's concerning, like in a lot of different directions. And then I I feel for the developers in working on this game. I understand that this will be hit. I mean, you know, it's tough for them, but I don't know if there's like a good solution. And one way to think about it is just that it's kind of good that people are talking about them at all, and that kind of like there might be eyes on their next project because obviously they put out a good game already, right? I mean, they know, and maybe that draws attention to that project. Maybe it gives them more opportunities to be like, you know, we made King Kong, but we can make good stuff too. Here's a redemption arc, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
Like,
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this could be one of those situations where a publisher that is interested in working with capable developers comes out of the woodwork and is like, oh, yeah, like, okay, we see what you do with What Lies in the Multiverse. Clearly, you got talent. You're stuck doing this. Pitch us a game, and let's see if we can do something. I feel like that's their out, and maybe that was part of the decision in saying something. But yeah, I mean, yeah, like you said with Inti Creates, yes, it's all business. It's just very ugly and not good. And they're a Chilean developer. Like nobody knows about Chilean developers, you know? So like we need more international developers putting out great games. We get more perspective, we get more enjoyment, we get it's good for the industry as a whole. So the fact that these guys are kind of getting buried under this junk, it's an ugly side. I get it. It's business. They accept it. But with this kind of publicity right now, that they cannot accept that. There's a story out that less than 1% of Netflix subscribers engage with the game portion of Netflix. And I thought this was interesting because I forgot Netflix has games. I exclusively use Netflix on my TV, and I never see anything about games on mobile. Like there's no advertisement. There's nothing like, hey, did you know there were games on Netflix for mobile? Why don't you go check that out? They don't do anything to entice me to engage with the mobile app. So how many people do you even think knows Netflix has games?
1% sounds a little high to me.
It says less than, so
yeah, it is less than 1%. Could be 0.9 or less.
I don't know. When you have Too Hot to Handle 2 on there, I mean, I don't know why people aren't on Netflix gaming. So
they got some other good ones. I forget, there was an early iOS game that came out that I forget the name of off the top. Monument Valley. 1 and 2 is on there. They got a few other games that are good.
Trying to figure out some of this. I'm looking through some of the different ones. Like they've got 12 minutes on there. You know, if you feel like kissing your brother. Sorry, I just ruined the big twist.
Oh no.
They have Oxenfree.
Okay, Oxenfree. That's
Moonlighter. They have a Shredder's Revenge.
It's a very respected game. Yeah.
I thought they had.
So you're supposed to play this on your phone?
Yeah, I believe that's the way.
Look, I've seen the younger generation play some of these games on the phone, and they got it down. I don't know how they do it. If they put it in my hands, I'd look like I'd never played a video game in my life. But they got it down.
All right, I'll trust you on that.
I'm assuming it's also one of those things where you could probably connect a controller.
That's true too.
Okay.
I thought,
that makes sense.
if I remember, like I don't see it when I'm looking in here because I'm looking at like the list of all the games. For some reason, I thought that they had that WrestleQuest game. It might be.
Oh yeah.
It might not be on there right now. It may be coming to Netflix games. Maybe they haven't gotten it on there yet, but it's supposed to be coming to it. So.
It makes me wonder how much Netflix cares about the games. If 1%, less than 1% of subscribers engage with the game's portion of it, is it something that they just have to, because I don't know if they had an earnings call, and so they just have to point that out, but is it something they're trying to grow? Because if it's something they're trying to grow, I expect something. Again, I exclusively use Netflix on TV. I don't really use my phone for Netflix. So
would do that? It doesn't. That's.
I know everybody else does. I just don't have time to sit on my phone, and most of the time,
Well, I just think that's weird to watch stuff on your phone. Why would you want? I don't know. It's
a
it's
ton of
strange to
people
me.
do it. Like most
I
everyone,
know.
like
Well,
we're
actual
the
movies.
outliers now.
Actual movies, like that's strange. That's strange.
Yeah,
Netflix is definitely doing something because they've hired a bunch of big names and brought them over.
I agree,
Because they like
but you can't
Joseph
bring them
Staten.
over and not.
Joseph Staten is
Yeah, you're
at
right. Yeah,
Netflix now, the former creative director of Halo. So
right.
you're doing
So
something.
you can't, like, if I'm Joseph Satan, I think it's Staten, but
I don't remember. Yeah,
I'm not. If I'm him, I'm coming to Netflix and like 1%, less than 1% of the subscribers on this platform are going to play my game. Now it could be a play of they're trying to get more just gamers to subscribe to Netflix, whether or not they watch movies.
yeah.
But still,
Well,
I
they
feel
might be
like
chasing down the Amazon Prime. The the more extras you have, the less likely you are to leave, and the easier we can feel, better we can feel about raising our price.
is there enough though for that? I
I'm not saying there's
Well,
enough. I'm just saying that might be part of the reasoning.
No, I know. But if that's part of the reasoning, is that going to be something that lasts long enough to justify the games division existing?
Well, I can understand investing in gaming. They probably have spreadsheets, but that's what all the kids are doing now, right? But why would you tie it to Netflix specifically? No one's going to Netflix to play games; they're going there to watch stuff. It's like almost the exact opposite. Like,
Well, we know it's a publicly traded company, right? So they got to figure out more ways to make money.
well, then
So it's like, well,
open
the
your own
way.
gaming app or something, like something that like actually makes sense instead of this.
Well, I mean, we see this all the time with, I mean, GameFly started with games. Now they do movies as well. And in a smaller version of this, I mean, you look at all the gaming websites, hardly any of them stick to just games anymore, right? The audience and the way things work and what is going to drive traffic, games is not enough anymore. So I guess in the same way with Netflix, like movies is not enough anymore. So we need to branch out into something else. Now it's weird because Netflix is built on movies. Its whole name is built on movies. So to add games feels antithetical to all of that. But I think it can work to some degree.
that's probably what the guy said at the board meeting.
I do think it can work. Yeah, I think it could work, guys. No, I think Netflix has an interesting position because I mean it's already got a bunch of subscribers. I think it could be the next GameFly of for video games. GameFly obviously came out of the idea of from Netflix in the first place. But GameFly is in trouble because as games become more digital, GameFly is really not going to go in that direction. So the current Netflix of video games is Game Pass. But if Netflix could somehow, this would be lofty, but somehow be able to get games from other platforms strictly digital on their platform, that would be because that's what GameFly does. Like you can rent PlayStation 5, you can rent Nintendo, you can rent Xbox, you can rent Retro. If Netflix could figure out a way to do that, there's something there for digital. No thoughts on that.
Well,
really?
I do. I have too many thoughts on it, really.
Okay,
well, and so
talk to me.
Yeah. I mean, part of it is the whole idea of renting games. It makes sense when it's digital to an extent, but I mean, inherently, I feel like the rental model is for people with a lot of time, right? It's for people like who are in school and stuff. Like, otherwise, you're kind of bouncing, between
People who
things
can burn through things.
right? Otherwise, you're kind of just bouncing through things just to try them, and yeah, you can do that, but that's going to depend entirely on the selection, right? Like,
No, I think that's the Blockbuster rental model. Like the current rental model, if we're taking GameFly as an example, is you rent it and you keep it for as long as you want. There is no return date.
Well, okay. Well, I've used GameFly a lot, like in the past 2 years, but never to actually rent anything. It's because they sell those games for used prices way cheaper than way
They
earlier than
do.
anyone else.
They
And
do.
so it's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, it's great for that too. It absolutely is. I got Street Fighter 6 for $14. It was
yeah,
fantastic.
it's great, and it's like the secret that barely anyone pays attention to. But yeah, I mean, so I mean that makes a little more sense. But and just in general, right? Like if if you're working and you want a game, you're not buying a game is not a huge barrier to you when you make money and have a job. I mean, renting is more like for like when you were younger and you had like a limited amount of money, you want to try a game for like a weekend or something, and then you return it to the Blockbuster or whatever. And obviously, the Game Pass model is like that. Xbox wants Game Pass to be your life and how you only play games ever going forward, but that's not really realistic in how people do it, right? I mean, you're still going to buy specific games you want, and it's not appealing to people by numbers seems like the wrong strategy. And so I feel like a lot of these subscriptions and these rental services are kind of doomed by focusing so much on the quantity rather than necessarily like quality or great value or like actually trying to like meet, you know,
Meet a need.
meet a need and like a money disposing audience need, particularly like school children, sure, but their parents are paying for that, and I think that only goes so far. But especially
Yeah.
now in this age where there's so much free stuff, right? I mean, it's so easy to go on YouTube or whatever and just get like or Twitch and just have like infinite free entertainment for stuff. It's not necessarily if people are going to go out and get and play a game, it's like they're going to like pick it. Like they're not necessarily looking for an a la carte thing. Sometimes like maybe to try it out once or twice, but it's not like it's never going to be a big part of their life. And especially now where there's like a billion subscription services, like I think people are getting sick of them, to be honest.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
I mean, can Netflix do a Hail Mary and totally change everything about this nonsensical idea? Maybe, but I don't think so.
All right. I was waiting for David to jump in, but
I mean, I get why they're doing things. It's just not like you said. They're apparently not marketing it well at all. So, because people love mobile games, but obviously they don't love mobiling on.
Well, there's so many free mobile games. Like it's just the idea of like renting. Not a total mismatch for the market.
but well, it's not a mismatch in the terms of like Netflix already has a ton of subscribers. This to me is more about retention than it is about gaining new subscribers. It's more about to me it's more about, hey, how do we continue to keep you engaged with our ecosystem? Again, like Amazon does. There's a lot of people who swear by Spotify. I use Amazon Music. Why? It's already partially tied into my Amazon Prime account, so I've already got some of it.
I can tell you why I don't use Amazon Music over Spotify, because the selection is weaker, and I have to pay for the larger selection.
Which I already do. I have a family plan with that, so we do that. So it's like, okay, I'm already tied into that ecosystem there. I'm already tied into the ecosystem with Prime Video, so I buy all my movies through Prime. Of course, it helps that Movies Anywhere is there, but a lot of times if it's not a Movies Anywhere title, I buy it on Amazon. It's just this thing about, again, ecosystem and retaining people in your ecosystem. So the biggest thing that I'm more surprised about is you've got a ton. As much as Netflix has hemorrhaged subscribers, they're still the biggest sub service out there when it comes to the movies and shows streaming. They are still the kings. A lot of people tried to dethrone them, and it still hasn't worked, even with them raising prices like crazy. Part of that, again, you raise the price, but you offer more. That is the way that you manage to make it hurt less. But I'm surprised, like you said, if less than 1% of subscribers know about it, that means they need to be advertising it better to their subscribers, because that's how you retain people, again, is to give them more value for the money that they're paying. And if you already have that value, why are you not advertising it better? Like, that's just a
Yeah.
failure on Netflix's part.
And it does have to be
It-
some gaudy advertisement, you know. As soon as
You get emails from Netflix, probably, like, if you're like any other streaming service, you get an email about the new stuff that just dropped all the time.
I mean, a push
Why not
notification,
throw that in
you
there?
can do that. I don't know. I
That-
don't know if. I mean, I have Netflix on my phone. I haven't turned off notifications because I don't get them.
Yep.
But I
Is
haven't even
there
gotten
is there a
anything about that.
tab? Is there a tab if you've got Netflix on your phone? Is there a tab for games on there?
I literally don't open Netflix on my
Okay,
phone.
I was asking just because I didn't
get-
know if you knew
actually, I don't have my phone.
if you
My
had
phone's
your
not up.
if you
Oh, I
had
do.
your phone. Yeah,
Yeah, let me look. Let me answer that question right now.
that was more my question. Is just, does it have a tab?
Yeah, I'm opening it right now. I'll turn down my volume.
Like, and how easy, if it does, how easy is it to find that tab?
So right now,
that's kind of where.
I see the new series Get Gotti, and at the top, TV shows, movies, categories, and then just barely under the movie advertisement is mobile games. My list. So then I click on the games and it just goes straight to nothing here yet. So then there's a browse games button. So already I kind of got to look for it, and then I have to press twice to. It's like if I don't have any games, then you just send me straight to the page where I can play it. Oh, Spirit Fair's on there. That's cool.
Are you gonna do like a live play of like Turtles right now, or
no?
I feel like it would, like, to me, it's like, I feel like have it like almost if you really want to do stuff, have it as a choice as soon as you boot up the app.
Yeah, this is what my screen looks like right now. Is there any personal information? No. This is what it looks like right now.
Yeah,
like,
to me, it's like have it when it boots up that I have to.
Boom, there it is.
Yep.
So
I mean, that's better than I
games.
thought it was going to be honest with you.
Yeah. Yes. But yeah. I didn't even see this like games thing, like the icon at the bottom. So it's not horrible, but again, I forgot. Totally forgot.
Yep.
Well, and I think part of that might just speak to general interest, right? Like you knew at one point and you cared so little you forgot.
Yeah, but I don't know the interest of the subscriber. Like,
well,
I
and that
guess
just
it's
speaks to
similar.
there's probably not a
Yeah.
steady stream of content either, so that's
but
probably
there's
also
enough
hurting.
on here. Like, even though I quickly scrolled through some of the games, there's enough on there to, sink some time into it to justify. Like, okay, there's a reason why there's some stuff. There's some stuff here, but less than 1% engage. Some of them have to feel like me, and I'm in the game space. So if I'm in the game space and I pay attention to this stuff and I forget it exists, then I know there's way more people who don't even engage with this stuff who forgot it exists.
Yep. It's just poorly marketed. That's the easiest way to put it.
All right, so I wanted to bring this up as our last little fun topic, totally unrelated to games, but at my
Kong
job.
again. Kong again.
At my job, King Kong decided to pay me a visit. No, at my job, I have an event. We're doing a cakewalk, so I needed cake trays. So I went to the store and to get some, and I'll name the store after I ask the question and get your guys' thoughts. But if you were shopping at a grocery store, where do you think you would find disposable cake trays?
On the disposable cake tray aisle, obviously.
Ding, ding, ding. There you go. One singular aisle, just a line of foil
all they have.
disposable cake trays, just blinding you as you walk down the aisle. Do you guys even
I
go
mean,
to the? Okay, there you go, David.
I would assume that you're talking. It would probably, if I was looking, I would assume it would be somewhere in like the aisle that has like the napkins, plastic cutlery, that kind of an aisle.
Okay, I could see that. All right.
Maybe some next to the cakes, but like it's just
That would
in a
have been my
supermarket.
guess.
You usually in a supermarket you still usually don't have that level of marketing of merchandising, should I say?
So Jack and I are more on the same page. I would figure I'm going to find disposable cake trays next to cakes. Instead, I found them next to number one, upstairs, and number two, next to what is labeled as housewares. And so these are like non-disposable bowls and non-disposable cups and non-disposable a whole bunch of other stuff that I would not expect to find them. So yes, I was in Walmart, and Walmart be labeling stuff very weird. And yeah, I went through the grocery section downstairs, went to the baking section. I'm like, disposable cake like nobody
Makes sense to me.
looks for that stuff. So let me just go where you would obviously find that, next to the baking goods, where I would actually need the thing that you don't really need that often. But no, I had to go upstairs where the electronics are and the home good stuff and the office equipment stuff, and go to the houseware section and find it there. I'm like, this does not make any sense to me. Have you guys ever had that kind of experience where you go into a store and it's like, good God, like, why is it over here?
Just the other week,
I
I was
mean,
looking
I've had
for
it
like
before for sure.
I was looking for like some kind of like spice, like, and you'd think you like go to like the spice aisle to find the spices, but it was actually next to the tacos. So
I just had a similar situation with chamoy about that. I was in Smart and Final, and I thought the chamoy would be with the rest of the sauces. Nope. By the tacos. Like that. Like, what? Why? Okay. What happened with you, David?
Oh, I've just said I've had that happen before. I can't remember the exact instance, but I like that emotion is very. I know that emotion. Why is this here? Yes.
I don't, yeah, grocery store layouts, Walmart layouts. I do not understand them. And I'm sure every Walmart's a little bit different. Maybe your local Walmart has the disposable cake trays by the baking goods as they should be, but mine,
like half
nope.
the store, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe baking is a big thing, so your Walmart just has them as soon as you walk in the door.
I mean, I personally just go to the disposable cake tray store.
Right, yeah.
Well, that's right next to the grocery
right?
store, and so yeah, walk a little further. So
I could probably find some of those at the Container Store. I didn't realize when you walk into the Container Store, you realize everything is a container. It's like, oh, frick. Yeah, I guess the trash can is a container, isn't it?
everything's a sandwich, yeah.
Yeah. All right, that'll do it for us this week. Appreciate you watching. Appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you later. Deuces.
Peace.
Bye.